here we are with Chandler Lyles. I am super excited about this conversation. Chandler, how are you?
I'm doing great, Stephen. Thanks for having me on. This is very full circle for me right now.
Yes, deja vu. Because we were introduced through a mutual friend, Mike Howerton, which he's going to be on a future episode. But how did you get here where you are today? Well, a brief introduction of who you are, what you do today, and then how the heck did you get here?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Chandler Lyles, like you said. I am the co-founder of a digital advertising agency called High Beam Marketing. That's how you and I actually started working together originally, was we were doing some consulting work for your personal brand there for Pull Up and Thrive, and it's great content. So I love it's weird for me to be on this side of the camera with you now versus I'm so used to just watching your content and helping you clip it out for your social media profiles. So, but yeah, that's the company I run now with two founders. So we can talk business, we can talk leadership, we can talk entrepreneurship, we can talk family business, we can talk marketing, all of that. But going back a little bit, I was my story's pretty all over the place, my resume, so to speak. I started in the Air Force as a contract specialist, which meant I spent government money, and that was a lot of fun. Got to do about $50 million in deals before I was 22, which is a crazy amount of money that I still can't really wrap my head around. And then while I was in the Air Force, I got bit with the bug of backyard barbecue, and it slowly
What year
grew
was
into,
this? What year was this?
I was in the Air Force from 2010 to 2014.
Okay.
Started the backyard barbecue thing around 2012, and then 2 years later, it had sort of evolved into this full-blown business. And I left. My contract with the Air Force was up, and so I ended up leaving. And we moved to Lexington, Kentucky, and me and my parents started a barbecue tent on the side of the road doing catering and different food truck type events. And we ran that business for 6 years, and it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about business, especially the whole sell a $6 sandwich for a 10% margin or net profit. And that's an MBA in itself right there. It was wild.
Yeah.
A lot of lessons learned in the restaurant business.
So as far as the initial, we're going to pitch a tent on the side of the road, were you thinking, hey, I'm going to start a business and this is how you run a business, or, hey, I'm really good at doing barbecue and I'm passionate about it, so hey, let's sell barbecue sandwiches because everyone loves barbecue and I can make a ton of money?
Yeah, it was always a business for me. My mom was the art of the business. She was the farm to table before it was cool. Like, she grew up in South Georgia and was cooking everything from scratch, and she was the real artist of our team. For me, business is art. I love the art of building businesses. That's really the thing that I get lost in, which is very convenient when you want to own businesses. So it's a good art to have in my world. But no, I never got too wrapped up in what a lot of entrepreneurs face, which I think is what you're alluding to, sort of the E-Myth version of the technician that is really good at the thing and then has that sort of entrepreneurial seizure, and then is the next day he's like starting his own business in HVAC or plumbing or construction or gates. Well, it wasn't even gates back then, was it? It was welding. And
it probably wasn't until, we've been in business 20 years, and for the first 13 years, I was what Ramsey would have referred to as a treadmill operator. Yes, I had a couple of guys, but I was the only salesperson, the only office person, the only person doing a design, and if I was not there, business would not happen.
Yeah.
And I think so many folks end up in that boat, and they don't know how to get off of that hamster wheel.
Yeah, it's weird for me right now. So the barbecue restaurant we built into like a 25-person team, give or take, depending on the season. And restaurants, a lot of that is part-time, but we had 4 or 5 people full-time with us. And so we had a whole team that was doing everything. And so we had gotten off that treadmill operator stage, and we were moving up that business ladder that you're describing there from Entree Leadership. And it's interesting now with High Beam. So High Beam Marketing is a company I started with my buddies in 2021, the fall of 2021. So we're not even 2 years old yet at the time you and I are having this conversation.
Yeah.
So we are back in that treadmill operator phase. And if I'm not here doing the interviews, if I'm not out shipping the content right now, we've got a few contractors, but it's just us three in the business. And so we are the ones that are making it spin. And it's sort of weird to be back here. But I tell you what, the thing that I love the most, not love, that's the wrong word, I appreciate the most from my barbecue days was the momentum. And I will never take that for granted again. The momentum of already having systems and proven processes and a way to get new customers and a way to service those customers and a way to have those customers pay and you pay your vendor. Like all the systems of building a business and how much time that takes to build from scratch. Right. I'll never take that for granted again because now I'm having to do it for the second time and it's exhausting. Yes. And I'm an old man at this point. I was younger last time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, if you're an old man, then I'm a Methuselah. But now, in my previous episode, I was talking about change and how change is scary. And I think that there's this misconception that whenever you make the leap from working a full-time job to starting a side hustle or, a side business or whatever you want to call it, I think that there's a misconception that you have everything figured out. There is no self-doubt. You're not afraid. And so what did that look like for you going from the barbecue business to your next thing to now running a High Beam?
Yeah, I think when I first started my career, I thought that I would hit this finish line and just be totally comfortable and confident and happy all the time. And that's why I worked so hard in the early days. And then sometime around year 3 of 6 of owning the barbecue restaurant, I realized like, oh crap, this might not ever actually end. And I don't think I ever actually learned that lesson until I left the barbecue business and went to work at Entree Leadership here in Franklin, Tennessee, under the Ramsey Solutions umbrella. And it was in that time, for the 2 years that I was there at Entree, working with a bunch of other business owners, seeing them all go through the same exact stuff that I had just been through. And then I got to start meeting people like you, other small business owners, and really get to learn from you guys and start to figure out like, doubting yourself never goes away. There's just a new doubt that comes in. To be totally transparent, I went to the gym this morning at like 5 a.m., not because I'm awesome or hardcore. It's because I have 2 kids and they literally won't let me if I don't go at that time. Yeah. I got to the gym. It's like an hour-long class. It's like one of those group fitness type classes. And I was like 25 minutes in. And I don't know how it is for you if you work out or run or anything like that, but you sort of get into this meditative state where your mind starts to wander and you can sort of unpack some of the things you're working on or the problems you're working on or stuff like that. And 3 or 4 weeks ago at High Beam, we had a pretty big change that was sort of unexpected, not really on the timeline we were planning. And so it's a pretty big pivot we're working on. And I just had this overwhelming feeling of like tension and anxiety and stress and like I'm not doing enough. We don't have enough done. Like I've got all these other projects I got to go finish.
Right.
And then it all ultimately ended with I'm not good enough and I have no idea what I'm doing here. I need to shut everything down and I need to go get another job so that I can feed these kids. And I ended up leaving the gym early, and just because it was like so stressful for me in that moment. And I just came home and just sort of like tried to breathe through it. And now I'm feeling better a couple hours later, but it happens even today.
Well, let's pause on that for just a second. If anyone listening is having any questions or doubts, I'm not for sure I should be doing this, I should just go and get me a regular job, this is hard. Well, the reason that it is hard is because it is hard. This is uphill stuff. It is all uphill, And if anyone is experiencing any of those symptoms or thoughts, this is normal. This is 100% normal. And I love the quote by John F. Kennedy. He said that there are costs and risks to a plan of action. But the costs and risks of a plan of inaction are so much greater. And so whenever you decide to go after a business, you are saying, without even realizing it, I know I didn't, I'm going to do one of the hardest things there is to do in life. I'm going to start a business from nothing. And so it's totally normal. You're not weird. You're not a failure. You're enough, because this stuff is hard. And it is hard, yes, it's easy whenever you have all the systems in place. It is easy whenever there's money, stacked up and, everything's operating on its own. But whenever you're in the birthing pains, it's hard and it's challenging. And this is completely normal, because I say that there are no babies born without pain and there's no success without failure. And so this is a sacrifice. And I'll say this one last thing, and then I'll let our fine guest continue. But starting a business, doing something of scale, and I lost my thought right there. Doing something of scale requires sacrifice. And most people in our lives aren't going to understand the sacrifice. And the ones that we begin to win, they're not going to appreciate that sacrifice. And that's just life.
Yeah.
That's just life.
Can I tell you what has helped me sort of
what is
address
that?
these issues you're describing perfectly here? I think every entrepreneur goes through this. It's the realization that there is no finish line. This is a game that you've chosen to play. Simon Sinek wrote a great book called The Infinite Game, which I recommend everybody read.
Oh, yes.
But the big takeaway from it, if you don't go read it, is that business is infinite. It never ends. And if your business goes out tomorrow, like they still eat barbecue in Lexington, Kentucky today, and we're not there. That game kept going. And so if the game's going to keep going, even after you're done playing, then what are you building for? It's not for this future state. It is, but it's also mostly for the joy and the satisfaction and the difficulty that I'm facing in this moment today. And so don't take this as like rose-colored glasses and all that. Like I was not thinking that this morning as I was sort of having this beat down in my own head mentally. But the mantra I keep repeating back to myself is like, you chose this game. You chose this game for a reason. If you're not in it, you'll be back to feeling way worse than you're feeling now, feeling like you're not actually out there going after the thing you should be doing. And that's the worst feeling of all. And so to just really take a minute and say, I'm going to enjoy the process. I'm going to enjoy the journey, because that's all we got. At the end of the day, it's all we got. Yeah. And, that brings me a little bit of peace, at least, when I'm starting to feel that way.
Yeah. And if we can just understand that business is a machine and it does not care about you, no matter how much you do, there is always something else to do. No matter how many customers you serve, there's another customer behind them. So we have to understand that business is a machine, and we have to tame the machine rather than the machine eating us up and spitting us out.
It's good. Bring humanity to the machine. I like it.
Yeah. So you just a few weeks ago, you had posted a video that you'd hit a big milestone. I don't know if you know what surely you know what I'm alluding to.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, like I said, High-B Marketing was founded, about a year and a half ago. But I only went full time in the business 3-4 weeks ago. And that's kind of crazy to think about, but it was that strategy came totally out of my first business. And with the barbecue restaurant, basically my Air Force contract ended, and the next week, essentially, I was selling barbecue in a tent on the side of the road, making essentially zero money because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to market myself. I barely knew how to make barbecue at scale for like a commercial barbecue venture, much different than your backyard. So many things I didn't know, made zero money, and brought a lot of stress on my family. And luckily, I only had it was only my wife and I at the time, and she had a job, and so we were able to like barely scrimp by and survive that period to where we could stay in the game and build a business that ultimately did about $1 million top line with one location. So then I promised my wife with this second business, I said, if I ever open another company, we'll do it the right way. We'll go slow. We'll build the business first. I'll learn the lessons while I work at other places, and then that way I can sort of bridge the gap and lessen the risk for failure. And at least we have a backup plan in case high beam marketing doesn't work in that 18-month runway where we're sort of testing it and trying to build it. We're gonna have this day job that I've got to fall back on, but at night, on the weekends, early mornings, like I'll be building it. And it was a long 18 months to sort of stay disciplined and stay in that moment. And you know, we had our second kid last year, and he was born in March, and so I had a job, a new job technically, and I had a company I was trying to grow, and I had a newborn baby, and I had a 6-year-old daughter, and I had a wife. And like it's just so much trying to balance. Right. Last year was probably one of the toughest. I mean, honestly, last year was probably one of the tougher years of my life from a career standpoint, easily. And it's been really rewarding and fulfilling for the last 3 weeks to have put that sort of really big goal and milestone out there in front of me. Because I could have gone full time a year ago, but the risk would have been much higher. And so to continue to delay satisfaction and delay the goal and really have a vision for what it would look like when we did make it happen full time, you know, it's been really satisfying just to actually have run that race and have it finish. And I'm really excited to gear up for this next season where I'm like able to do stuff during the day like this, like do podcasts and do interviews and make more content. And we send out our weekly marketing email. Like I write all of those, and like the volume has been cranked way up now in the last 3 weeks, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. But it took 18 months just to get to this point, and it's been very satisfying.
Wow. Well, congratulations for sure, because I know it wasn't easy. Now, real quick, in that transition, what is one or two things that maybe if someone is listening and they're in that boat and they're trying to make it a leap, what would you tell them?
Like trying to make the leap from full-time job to full-time entrepreneur, and they've had the side hustle they've built up. I would say, you know, you want to have pretty consistent revenue or a pretty well-defined path to consistent revenue before you make that leap, because revenue is the lifeblood of all business. You can have the best purpose in the world. You can be the best called entrepreneur on the planet. You can be the best marketer ever. You can be the best sales guy. You can be the best plumber, HVAC, whatever. But unless you have a real way to grow revenue or keep revenue coming in, you're going to be out of business pretty quick. I think we've talked about this before, but the SBA puts it out there that cash flow is the number one reason small businesses close in America in the first 5 years. And the closure rate is like 80+% on businesses that start from zero. Yeah. And we're not even talking about venture-backed money businesses. We're talking about people that had some equity in their house, took a HELOC out, and went and launched something. I saw that happen with restaurants back in the day when I was running restaurants all the time. And they were buying like food trucks and doing all this stuff. And it's just, it's a big risk. And that comes from the sort of survivorship bias that we have for other entrepreneurs, that you hear those stories where they were like, we put it all on 20 credit cards, and that was the thing that made it work, and it sent it off, and da-da-da, and now there's like, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, and they're this huge thing. And that's just not, that's the exception, not the rule. Right.
Yes. That was exactly what I was going to say. And so, I will say this one thing, and then we'll dive into some marketing stuff. But anytime that people consider going into debt to start or grow a business, they always focus on the upside. Oh man, I will be I will be able to make, you know, 100 more XYZs, or I'll be able to get this, or I can, serve this many people. But then a COVID hits, the country shut down. Now what? And so debt adds a tremendous amount of risk. So I think that we would both agree, avoid debt, bootstrap it, grow it slow, because if you don't, you're eventually what we call in the industry out of business. So marketing, you're a marketing guy. What is the misconception of marketing?
That it's sales. That's the biggest misconception. That people think it's sales, and it's not. Marketing is about building relationships and nurturing long-term relationships with people, so that eventually, when they're ready to buy, they just come buy from you, and then your salespeople step in and actually flip the switch and make it happen. And I didn't know that in the beginning. Like, how do I go from a barbecue guy to a high beam marketing agency owner guy? And it was because, this, when you're an entrepreneur and you're a small business owner, you own every hat in the business. And so I had to be the accountant. I was the sales guy. I was the cook. I was the dishwasher. Now with my family, they were there as well, but I was also the marketer. And it just sort of, over that 6-year period, I fell in love with the art and craft of marketing. And then, a lot of these books behind me ended up being marketing books, and have consumed hundreds and thousands of hours of podcasts and audiobooks and videos, and just trying to learn what this is all about. And that's the biggest mistake people make when it comes to marketing, is thinking it's sales and having the wrong expectation with marketing efforts. And what they end up getting sucked into is what we call at High Beam random acts of marketing. And so what does random acts of marketing look like? That is, you are somebody that randomly boosts a post on Facebook, and then you tell me to my face, Facebook ads don't work. And then you're like, I bought a billboard one time and that didn't really do anything. And I bought a radio ad one time and that didn't do anything. And then I put an ad in my local paper and that didn't do anything. And then we sponsored our little league team and that was good for my morale. But I don't know if that brought us any extra business in. And like, it's just random. You're just all over the place. And it's because you're trying to like immediately spend money and get money back. And I'm sympathetic to that. I'm empathetic to that, I should say. It's like, I also love cash flow and I need cash to come back, and marketing is a good way to burn it. But the cash flow return is 18, 24 months from now if you're doing it right.
Right.
And so it's, especially from a brand building standpoint when you're doing marketing. But yeah, the plan is the biggest problem. Like, just getting yourself on a plan will solve a lot of your marketing issues.
All right. So let's just say I'm a business guy, okay? And I don't have a bunch of cash. I don't have $10,000 a month to do whatever. What would be the lowest entry point? What is the lowest hanging fruit that I could do today that, with consistency over time, and like you said, over time, you would start to see some attraction?
Yeah. It's funny. There's two types of business owners. There's ones that are earlier on and have a lot of time but not a lot of money, and then there's ones that are further on in their journey and they have a lot more money and basically no time. They're in every meeting and they're running and gunning. They have no time. The people that are rich on time are sort of who this advice is for. If you have the money, if you're using Stephen as a business coach, he's going to tell you, you get the right people on the bus, you go find the right agency to partner with that'll actually help you go implement this plan. This plan is specifically for people that have to still do it on their own. They're still doing their own books. They're still in that startup bootstrapping phase that you were just talking about a minute ago, right? And never borrow money to do a marketing plan. That is, never do that. A little side note here, never do that.
Right.
But the first part, like, if you're going to build out a little mini funnel here, which is really what you should do, it's really all you're going to have time to do, is this sort of really effective mini funnel that's going to get the most bang for your buck from a time standpoint. So you're going to start with, what I would start with is organic social media. So that's your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And you're probably going to only have enough time really for one of those platforms. So I would look at your current customer base, hopefully you have one, and say, where do, 80% of my customers spend the majority of their time when they're not here, when they're not at home, or when they're not, or when they are at home. Like, right, what are they on Instagram? Because if they're on Instagram, that's where you need to start. And then I would be posting there once a day. And then I'd start to like look at, okay, depending on the business you're in, how much money can you actually spend on paid ads, and like watch some YouTube videos for free on how to like run a Facebook ad campaign on Instagram for the first time yourself and spend a couple $100 there, just so you start to learn and see how that world works. And then from there, you're going to want to make sure that you have a Google My Business page set up. Local SEO is huge, especially if you're a small business owner that's really dependent on a local business. A Google My Business page is basically all you need. So that's simply just search for on Google, what is a Google My Business page, or how do I set one up? Like, make sure you own it. Your business might already even have it. And then make sure the reviews are positive, because reviews are like huge. You lose hundreds of thousands of dollars for every half a star it goes down. The difference in a restaurant that has 4.5 stars and 4 stars is massive. The difference between 4 and 3.5 might as well be 3.5's out of business. Like, it's bad.
Right.
And then that also helps with like local SEO. So when people are, and SEO means search engine optimization. So when people are searching for, custom gates in Texas, and then hopefully you guys show up, and it's a lot of that's going to be due to the fact that you have a Google My Business profile set up well with all the right words in there. And then also in the reviews, people are talking about your custom gates on their property. So then that ends up helping with the local SEO as well. You don't need to hire a great SEO firm. Like, all that stuff is nice and good to have, but that's for later. That's for when you get more money and you're getting the right people on the bus. But for now, it's just like, let's get the blocking and tackling right. Let's get it right. And then I would also, before we get to like your real home base, which is your website, I want to talk about public relations as well. Public relations is like, you have a local paper, local news, local radio. Anybody that's in local podcasting, you might have local influencers, right? The people that are on social media that maybe have, 1,000, 2,000 followers, but all their followers are in your town. You need to know all those people on a first name basis, so that when you have something interesting going on, you can connect them, right? Like for the gates, for instance, let's say you guys just made a fun, let's say you made a Houston Astros gate for fun, and the Astros won the World Series. Like, you could probably get featured on the local news because you had an angle there where it's like an interesting story. They can bring you out and have you show off this gate that you built for the Astros, right?
Right.
And I'm a Braves fan, so it's killing me to even give that analogy, but I know it's more contextual for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you a Rangers fan or an Astros fan? Which one is closer for you? Where you're
I'm not
at?
much of a fan.
I'm
not much of a fan at all.
I could have gone either way. I should have gone Rangers then for me.
I'm like the law enforcement.
The Ranger, yeah.
Yeah.
And the last thing to sort of get this funnel set up is your website. And your website should do a couple really basic things. It should have a really clear message on the header that says what it is you do, with hopefully a picture of a version of what you do. So if you're a restaurant, it's a picture of the food or the restaurant itself with people in it that are smiling. Or if it's a gate company, it's a picture of the beautiful gate with a beautiful house behind it, or maybe not behind it, depending on where you're at. If it's a landscaping company, it's a picture of beautiful manicured lawn in the middle of spring and not the dry heat of summer in central Texas where it's 1,000 million degrees all the time.
Yeah.
That 1 week a year where you guys have really nice green grass, that would be the week I'd have that picture up. And then from there, you want to have a really clear call to action to buy, book, schedule, whatever the most important thing is in the top right corner of the website, a clear call to action button. And then the last thing I really want you to have on the website. Now, there's a lot more that you can add to the website, but remember, this is if you don't have a lot of time, or if you have a lot of time, but not a lot of like time to be messing with it all the time, building it out, you want a way to collect emails, because email marketing is like the best way to consistently market your business. I know a lot of people love to talk about TikTok and social media and paid ads and all the things, YouTube, but email is still the undisputed king. And if you have some sort of tripwire in there, it can be as simple as, hey, join my email list, which is fine. But it gets better when you start giving things away, like 10 ways to do X. or
Yeah.
3 reasons your why is broken. And those are basically just depending on what your industry you're in. And then you make a little like simple PDF on canva.com. Don't make it complicated. Keep it simple. And then have a way for them to download it. And then when you have the emails and you're building that list, once a week, send an email out. And this is not a sales email, okay? And this is also a philosophy I want you to take back to your social media content that you're making as well. You want to be making content that is interesting to the viewer and not just about selling your product. And so back to the gate example, I would maybe tell the story of a gate you just finished. You know, we were building this gate for John and Sally. They've worked 50 years to buy their dream home, and they finally got it. And we're so honored that we got to put a picture of this gate in front of their house. And that could be the email that goes out. And that's not really about converting anything, but what it does and what all marketing does is it builds relationships with people so that you're position number 1 in that person's mind for the thing that you do. And so if I'm ever in Texas and need a custom gate, like my parents have a house there, and if they ever tell me, hey, we need a custom gate, they're just north of Dallas, guess who I'm going to tell them to call, Stephen? It's you, right?
Me?
100%. Yeah, and I hope you travel. You know, I know you guys live a million miles apart because Texas is so doggone big. But
yeah.
It's like you gotta look at marketing as we don't have a chance to get value from this person yet. Again, it's not sales, but we're building relationships for the long term so that when you're ready to buy, you think of us first, or at least you give us the first at bat.
Yeah.
You know, because maybe they call you and maybe you can't do it. Maybe you're way too expensive because your gates are so much better and they're broke. I don't know. But like it's at least positioning you to be first. And that's what you want to be.
So all right. All of the things that you mentioned are either free or very inexpensive.
Yeah.
So Google My Business. Make sure that you have that, which it just takes a little bit of time to set up. Relationships, local relationships, because people buy from who they like, know, and trust. And maybe they don't need your product today, but you have that relationship. And like in the gate business, we've been doing this 20 years, so there's lots of relationships, and I have quotes because, in 20 years we've done a lot of jobs. So there's lots of folks referring other folks that, we don't even know about. But then your website, which it is 2023. If you don't have a website, I don't know what to tell you. You have to get a website. And there's so many platforms to do it for very, very inexpensive, and you can have a decent site. And then the last one was collect those emails, which I'm not great at, I will be honest. So I made myself a note here. But even with those emails, because there is this conception, well, I always delete those emails that I get. I never even read them anyways. Well, they're seeing your name over and over and over again, and it's about keeping you top of mind. Maybe they don't need marketing today, but a year from now, because you stuck with it and you were consistent with whatever you're doing, oh, hey, I need to call Chandler. Oh, I need to call the Texas Gates. I need to call the XYZ Plumbing Company.
Can we talk about why your email is not getting opened and why it's getting deleted? Because I'd love to talk about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The reason it's not getting opened is because you're trying to sell something. It's a sales email, delete. That's about you. That's not about me. Your headline is all about you and what you got going on. It's not about me and my life and what I got going on. My example that I'm doing right now, two examples here. One, High Beam Marketing has an email that goes out every single week. I highly recommend everybody that listens goes and signs up. It's a weekly email. It's free marketing advice just like this. Very short, easy to digest.
Where do they go to?
Just
sign up?
highbeammarketing.com, and then you'll have a fun little flash thing that pops up, and it'll basically make you sign up. It's we try to practice what we preach, Stephen. I'm trying to be in it. I hope you have a beautiful gate in front of your house. You got to at least walk the talk. So that email that we sent today was all about social media marketing, and that comes from, we did an event. We spoke at a Chamber of Commerce here in the Nashville area a couple days ago, and almost every question from these small business owners was, how do I do X, Y, and Z with my social media marketing? And it's all basically about, how do I do more social media marketing? How do I do it better? Yada, yada. And so this week's email was about social media marketing. And the title for that email came basically directly from the questions they were asking. And it was something along the lines of how to do social media marketing so that it actually works. And that was a sentiment and a feeling that they gave me in that moment. So your customers are coming in and telling you what they want to know. You just got to give it to them. I didn't start the email with like, hey, click this email and book a discovery call and have me do your social media marketing. That's sales.
Right,
That's
right.
that's a cold call. That's interruptive. I'm basically trying to get lucky that I happen to catch you on the right day at the right time in the right mood to buy from me. And that's what cold calling is. And it's effective and it works, and you will make money with it, but it is very transactional. It is not relational. Another example, I got a client up in Indiana. They run a gymnastics facility. It's beautiful. They've got summer camps going on all summer long. And time of this recording, like kids' schools just let out this week for a lot of people. At least my daughters did here in Tennessee. And so that email headline was, hey, do you need somewhere to send your kids this summer? Because today is Friday, and all those kids are now home for the first time. And these parents are probably thinking, oh, crap, like I didn't plan on them being home all summer. Where am I going to send them? And so this was an email that was really sales-based. But we've been nurturing those people with content and weekly and all the things we just described in this funnel. And so now it's time to send a sales email, but still the headline was about you. It was about, do you need to send your kids somewhere?
Yes.
That's the pain you're feeling. That's the emotion you're in right now. I still made it about you, not about me. I could have said summer camp's open and prayed that they made the connection between what they've got going on in their life and that summer camp. But you have to make it easy for people. You have to give it to them exactly where they're at in that moment.
Yes. What is your customer's pain point? What does your customer care about? This is not about us. Mm-hmm. And yes, price at some point is important. But if you have a toothache and it is killing you, you're not calling around trying to find the best price. You were trying to find someone, all right, can you get me in today? Can you do my marketing to where I get results over time? I know it's not going to work like the first email, but yeah, what is your customer's pain? Speak to that pain. What do they care about? So yes, we want to stay top of mind. Email marketing is a great tool, resource for that. And I always talk about what's the difference between a Burger King, McDonald's, and ChickfilA. Because, really, if you boil it all down, I'm going to give you some bad news. Everyone that loves ChickfilA, which I'm a huge fan. I go there, do not tell anybody, probably twice a day. But boil it down, it's all fast food. If you want to, sorry everybody. But how in the world, because if you look at the numbers, they're not even close. To go from a Burger King to McDonald's to Chick-fil-A, it is like, talk about a hockey stick. McDonald's isn't even close. What is Chick-fil-A's secret sauce?
I love this question, and I do love Chick-fil-A. So I'm from Georgia originally, so I grew up on Chick-fil-A. And when I met people that were like, and when I moved to D.C. 12 years ago for the first time to be in the Air Force, they were like, we don't really have Chick-fil-A's around here. And we finally opened one in my time there, and it was great. And I was very happy that it was around. But yeah, those guys were blown away by it. They were like, this is so different. And the reason it's different is you're right. They don't have a really unique sandwich. I mean, every fast food chain has a chicken sandwich now. They have the same employees base to pull from that everybody else does. And the question then becomes is like, well, what are they really doing differently? And a couple things. One, they have a very clearly defined purpose of trying to make people's lives better through chicken and through service and all that stuff. Like that's why Truett Cathy demanded that everybody say, "My pleasure." We're here to serve, which is a big deal. And then they practiced what they preached. But they really did. So that was like the core. The first thing you got to do is have a clear purpose, because of your values, as you know, as a business coach, like if you don't have clear values, your organization will stand for anything, which means it'll fall apart. So having clear values is step one, and having a good product is step two. But the secret sauce, because a lot of people get good values and a lot of people get good product, but then they sort of like, they don't get the same level of success as a Chick-fil-A, right? And the reason why is that Chick-fil-A has found a way with their marketing, with their service, with everything they do to create these memorable word of mouth moments, right? If we were able, like, let's say you and I were at the Pull Up and Thrive live event, that's definitely going to come in the next 24 months. I'm just putting that out in the world now. I'm putting pressure on you now, Stephen. It's time to make it happen.
Yes, no pressure.
Let's say we were doing a live event podcast together right now, and I asked the audience listening, like, how many of you would say referrals and word of mouth is your number one source of traffic? I've had enough conversations with business owners as a marketer now to know that 99% of them would raise a hand. I don't know. Would you say the same thing for you guys at Texas Gates and Handyman?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if word of mouth and referrals is the number one driver, then it's probably really important for us as small business owners to go, how do we create more of those moments? And that's what Chick-fil-A has done on steroids. They basically empower all of their team to serve people, and they actually go out and do it. And so that's why you see all these headlines where it's like the Chick-fil-A employee helped deliver a baby in the backseat of a car while changing a tire, while like saving a cat from a tree with their third arm that comes out of their back. Like they're superhumans, the way these articles describe these, $10 an hour kids. It's crazy. And so they've empowered all their team to create those moments. And then they took the best ones and they started putting them on. I'm a big college football fan. You can see the Georgia football behind me maybe. Like you have college football games on Saturday. They have commercials that are running that are basically the employee on a red couch in a white room with the customer next to them. And they're basically just exchanging the story of what happened between them, which is perfect because it's like it's not about chicken sandwiches. They don't talk about chicken sandwiches one time. They talk about the service you're going to get when you come here. Like, we're going to serve you. We're going to do that. So they're just finding a way to amplify word of mouth moments. And so that's Chick-fil-A. They got billions of dollars now. They've been doing that since day one, by the way. But let's say you're that business owner that's like, that's good for them. I can't do it. The question you got to ask yourself is, what are you doing in your business right now, and be real with yourself, that is worth remarking about? That's what a remarkable product is. It's worth making a remark about. And a lot of us, if we were honest with ourselves, is like, man, I'm sucking wind here. IB Marketing, to be transparent, was sucking wind at this. And so one of the things we started doing was, we're going to put out the best free education for small business owners and marketers around marketing in the year we live. And so it's not going to be a 30-year-old textbook. Like, we're going to have a weekly email, and we've got our own podcast, and we've got a YouTube channel. Like, we're going to do it for free, better than everybody else. We're trying to make it something worth talking about. Right. The barbecue restaurant back in the day, like, I empowered everybody in the restaurant. I said, hey, your job is to make people's days better. That is not a directive. That is not a standard operating procedure. That doesn't come with a handbook. It is a value. It is a custom. Right. It's a core value. Right. And you want to give somebody a free peach cobbler? Do it. You want to walk somebody out to their car? Do it. And that came up a lot in surveys and things that we had go out about why people chose us over other restaurants. So, I think a random surprise, like surprise and delight people, trigger a positive emotion. These are like, ask yourself, how can we do that in our business specifically? And then people will go tell their friends about it, because you've agreed when they walk in. Let's go to the gate, for example, here, the gate company. There's an agreement there about what they're getting from you, okay, on the day and time it's going to be delivered. You could deliver it a week early. you could deliver it with an upgrade that they didn't choose, but you decided to just throw in because it didn't cost you that much more money and just chalk it up to being a marketing expense. You could, I don't know, you could do something. Oh, let's say the gate goes wrong, which I'm sure has never happened for you, right?
That has never happened.
No, perfect. Yeah. Those moments where things go wrong are the perfect opportunity to create a remarkable story, because every good movie starts on conflict, right? The bad ones don't.
Yeah.
They sort of drone on like French indie pieces, right? Where they're black and white and subtitled. The good movies, though, they start with a bang. They start with conflict. They start with somebody in turmoil. So if you build a gate wrong, you're now in the middle of the story. And now the question is, how do we end this story on a positive note and make it a like heroic Marvel movie versus a like horror film? And what most people do wrong is they just double down on stupid and they turn it into a horror film, which is never going to like, people are going to tell that story, right? They're going to tell the story of the time their gate got messed up. Your job is to make sure it ends with a positive spin and good word of mouth marketing for you. Like, I can't believe they messed this up, but then let me tell you what they did.
Right.
You know, or it's like they messed this gate up and they kicked my dog. And it's like, well, how's your business going to go now?
Right. And you've touched on about 5 or 6 things that I want to sort of put a bow on it here. You talked about purpose, like, ChickfilA has a purpose. Okay. I'm not for sure if McDonald's or a Burger King or Popeye's Chicken has a purpose. If they do, it's not coming
Making
true.
shareholders money. That's their purpose.
Yeah.
It comes through.
Right.
It comes through.
Right. So what is your purpose? What is your plumbing, sheetrocking, IT business, whatever it is, what is your purpose? What is your mission? Then what are your values? Then you hire and fire based on those 2 things. Because what we do as business owners, I have done it in the past and rarely in the rarely in recent times, but sometimes it happens. But we hire and fire people based on the mission and the values. But what we do is that we hire someone because I need help and they need a job, and they are perpendicular to our values. And then we're all, disillusioned, and then here we go. And nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to show up. And then we start complaining. About our help. Well, I ask, who's the fool that hired all of these folks? Let that guy go. Well, you're looking at him right here. But and then you have to serve them with excellence. Business is about service. And if you can't serve, then you shouldn't be in business. And if you do enough activity, stuff is going to go wrong. That is just part of life and business. When it goes wrong, make it right. And if all you're thinking about is, I'm going to lose money, well, you are going to lose more than money if you can't make it right. So what are 2 or 3 quick things that someone could do today? Maybe that, we talked about a ton of stuff and we've given tons and tons of value, but are there 2 or 3 or maybe even one last closing thought?
The thing I'm most passionate about, man, I can't believe you asked this question. The thing I'm most passionate about in this world is content. I often joke with my wife, had I known it was a job, I would have probably drove out to California to try to run a movie studio. I think that would have just been the coolest job in the world, because storytelling is the most amazing thing on the planet. You can take somebody that's having a certain day and then they hear a story and then their day is totally better or totally worse. And you want to know how it goes worse? Just ask people who watch Fox News and CBS and CNN and all the news stations every day. Like, ask them how their life's going, because it's always negative, right? That stories are always negative. I'm a big Marvel Cinematic Universe guy, and so every time I go watch a Marvel movie, as long as it's not a bad movie, I tend to come out of there having a better day and I'm feeling better. What people don't realize about their businesses is that they have so many amazing stories inside of them. Like every business should have its own TV show. I'm convinced of that. And TLC, HGTV, Food Network, all these little regional, smaller channels, they've basically tried to prove that out. Just think about all the different businesses that have shows now. Pawn Stars comes to mind. Gold Rush comes to mind. Guys going out and chasing gold. What do those guys do for a living? They dig dirt. You're telling me that's interesting? They're digging dirt. Well, yeah, it's interesting. If you start to see, like, did they find gold? Did the tractor break? Did it snow and freeze everything up? There's always a conflict. And when there's conflict, there's a story. And so, like, even the gate company, right? Like, every single gate you build is its own unique story. Do you remember the show American Choppers back in the day that was huge? Like,
yeah.
There's insert gate for Chopper. It's the same show. It's the same story. And it's interesting. And your customers will want to watch it. And the best thing about the time we're living in right now is that as long as you have the willpower to go after it and try it, and the willingness to learn how to get better at telling stories, the distribution is free. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, depending on the place, like you can distribute your video for free. Gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of data for free. And those platforms are set up so that they're trying to sell advertising. And so it works out. It's a win-win. It's a great time to be alive and to be telling stories. The best thing we did at the barbecue restaurant was brand my mom as Mama Lyles and then start her own like Food Network type show and just have her cooking recipes that weren't really barbecue related. But it was getting to know her, getting to know us, and it worked. And we were recognized all over town, and that's all that mattered. I didn't need to be a national star. I just needed the people in the city of Lexington, when they thought barbecue, to put us in position one, and that gave us a chance.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, this has been a super great conversation. Tons and tons of value. I took notes. Thank you so much for being here, Chandler. Now, if someone wants to reach out to you, they need a marketing guy, they want to connect somehow, where are you at? How do they connect? How do they,
highbeammarketing.com. Go to the contact us page and fill out the form, and then we'll set up a discovery call. And if you're not ready for that yet, I definitely recommend that weekly newsletter. We put a lot of time and effort into the content that goes out there, just trying to educate people and teach them how to grow their revenue. And we do that to be transparent, so that when you're ready to hire a marketing guy, like we've been talking about this whole episode, we're position one. That's all we're going for.
Yes.
And if you want to hang out with me personally, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the places, it's at Chandler Lyles, and I'd love to have you there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was fantastic. And until next time.
See you, bud.
See ya.